Many people understand the focus of stretching either before or after a workout, but an extremely useful tool in terms of training, whether it's sports, weight management, or any kind of activity that you do, is a self-myofascial release. Now, it's a very big term, but basically what we're talking about here is something that you can do on your own, hence the self, and a myofascial release, releasing some of that muscle tissue. Think about going to a massage therapist and digging into your back, finding those knots, releasing that tension. Now, you might be saying, what's the point? I'm going to give you a great example right now that you can try at home or with someone else to see what the effects are of tight muscles. Right now, we're going to use the forearm muscle as an example. In its normal stretch position, what I want you to squeeze as hard as you can. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Now that's starting to hurt my fingers. Now I want you to relax. What we're going to do is we're going to shorten this muscle. So I'm going to take that wrist and now we're going to shorten it. Squeeze again.
I can't.
How much strength have you lost?
A lot.
A lot of it. Now I want you to think about this. People always go, oh, my hip flexors are very tight, my back's tight, my hamstrings are tight. All these tight muscles that you have in your body produce a significantly amount of less force. If you're working out, you want to get stronger, the best thing you can do is start releasing some of this tissue, increasing flexibility. Whether it's sport, or even if you're just sitting in an office all day, as those muscles start to shorten, they're going to compromise mobility, put extra stress on the joints, and also lose a lot of strength. What we're going to be doing today is focusing on very simple tools, a lacrosse ball and something called a foam roller to help draw in some blood to these areas, release some tissue, and increase some mobility and some flexibility. So let's get started. So the first area we're going to focus on right now is the IT band, running from basically the top of the hip down to the knee. To set up, the right leg is the area that we're going to be focusing on right now. The left leg is going to come over. That's going to be basically a beginner position. I'll show you an advanced position in a little bit. You're going to use the hands to stabilize the body, and we're slowly going to make our way down the leg. So just basically rolling back and forth. Now instead of making big rolls, what I want you to do is basically focus on one area at a time. Sit out in one area and very quickly just roll back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, even smaller than that. So just back and forth, back and forth. You're going to shift your weight forward a little bit, get to the upper portion of the thigh, shift back a little bit, get a little bit of the hamstring, and then slowly work your way down. Now what we're looking for right here is any adhesions, knots, and tightness. Normally we'll see some facial expressional changes when you find a knot. It will feel rather painful at first, as if, like I said, when you're getting a massage from a massage therapist and they find those knots, it doesn't feel extremely comfortable. What's happening in these areas is a lot of the tissue that's supposed to basically go back and forth like this is starting to bind up. And when that binds up, there's lack of blood flow in that area. These foam rollers are bringing new blood flow in that area, smoothing those muscles out, and giving them a little bit more mobility. How's that feel so far?
Very good.
Any tightness at all?
Yes, absolutely.
So common questions, how long do I do this for? Once you find an area that's slightly painful, stay at that area. We're gonna go 35, 45, even up to a minute. Move your way down to the knee, switch legs, and then come back. Over time, probably about 2 to 3 sets, this should start to go away a little bit. And doing this daily, before exercise, before sports, or anything like that, as the weeks go on, this will get easier and easier to do. Once you become a pro at that, the next level, as opposed to putting one leg on the ground, is having both feet together. What this is going to do is create more tension, more weight on that muscle. So once kind of level 1 is done, we can go to level 2. Same thing, slowly back and forth, starting from the hip and slowly working your way down to the knee. A little painful? Next up, we're going to focus on the glutes and the piriformis. So set up on here, we're going to work on the right side first. So basically kind of sitting on the foam roller, kind of on the right cheek. We'll be taking the right leg, bringing that up over the knee. Now, a couple things to increase the benefit of this exercise. If we can bring that ankle closer to that hip, bring this knee up towards the chest a little bit more, you really start to open up that hip joint, exposing that muscle, especially the piriformis, to get in there and dig in there. From this position here, you can kind of roll around, play with different areas, and we're gonna go back and forth nice and slow. Try to cover as little area as possible. So instead of going back and forth with big movements, small movements back and forth, isolating some of those areas. Change the upper body positioning as well. So you're getting the top of the glutes, outside the glutes, and right into the hip joint as well. How do you find that?
Nice.
Any tender spots?
A little bit.
Okay. So again, when we talked about strength and decreasing performance or decreasing strength and power, all these tender areas that are very tight are also decreasing the ability for those muscles to contract optimally. Now, once this becomes pretty easy, we move on to phase number 2, the advanced version. The benefit of using this ball over the foam roller is, as you can see, we're working with a cylinder here, so it only moves in one direction, back and forth. The benefit of the ball, all over the place. So you can really, really pinpoint some areas that are very tight that you want to work on. So just get you to lift up, leave your knee there if you want. So get back in your position with your knee up on your foot up on your knee. Good. Place that basically right on the hip joint itself. Now, as soon as you do this, you'll notice the facial expressions start to change. So when you really think, hey, you know what, I'm not that tight, I'm a master at the foam roller, and you give this a try, you'll really start to realize how much tension there is, adhesions in there, and how tight the glutes usually are.
Nice.
So in terms of time frame, you're gonna focus on one area, roll, roll, roll. Imagine yourself like a massage therapist digging in there, releasing some of those adhesions. Either A, you can't handle it anymore, or after about 45 seconds to a minute, you can go on to another area, go on to the other side, and keep going back and forth. The more you do this, the more that's gonna release. Okay, good. The two most common areas people normally foam roll, the IT band and the glutes. One area they usually focus on the least is the inside of the knee, the VMO or the medialis muscle of the quad. So to set this up, we're gonna basically run parallel to our foam roller here in a plank position. And we're gonna position this right on that inside. So move back just a little bit more. Move over to your left. Move over to your left a bit. Right to the knee. So keep moving, good. So in that plank position, you can go down on your elbows to take some pressure off your shoulders. You're gonna push down on that leg, creating a lot of tension. So start right at the knee, not the hips, so go all the way to the knee. There we go, and you're gonna push down on that leg. So that inside teardrop muscle now is also getting a lot of that work, creating some blood flow in there and releasing some of that tension. Most people don't even realize how tight they are in here. They focus on the IT bands a lot. The benefit of the VMO helps track the knee along with the IT band. So it's very important that you get both sides. How's that feel?
Very good.
Okay. Also, what you can do is we've showed you in previous videos on how to do this as well with a lacrosse ball. So if you have one of those, or a baseball, a softball, you can replace this with that as well and do that same motion. We're gonna be using a barbell here for a different purpose today. Instead of lifting it, squatting it, benching it, we're gonna use it for some self-myofascial release on the calves. Now, commonly, some people might use a foam roller. Personally, I find this a lot more effective, which digs into the calves a lot more. Now, women wearing heels a lot, people who do a lot of running, stairs, things like that, the calves and the Achilles will start to get really tight. Common problems, we see people who can't squat properly, lunge properly, a lot of ankle mobility starts to get restricted. Great way of freeing that kind of stuff up right here. So to set up, we're gonna start kind of on the Achilles. As a beginner, if you just wanna put one foot on the ground like you're doing right now, if you find a lot of tension just doing that, start there. We can go back and forth, turning the toe out, bringing the toe in. Now, right here you see that she's covering a lot of area. One of the things not to do. So what we wanna do is we wanna focus on small areas at a time. So back and forth, slowly working your way up. Once you find an area that's very tight, don't leave it. That's an area that needs to be focused on. So stay there, roll back and forth, till you start to feel some release in that area. Now, once this gets easy, phase 2, bring this leg, put that on top. We're gonna add a little bit more weight to that now. And same thing, back and forth, starting from basically the Achilles, working your way up to the calves. How do you find that?
Nice.
Now, have you done this with a foam roller before?
Foam roller, yes.
What do you find more effective?
This is definitely a lot more.
Okay, so for those of you, like I said, as part of your fascial release program, definitely a really key component to add in here. One that's a little more uncommon, but a lot more effective as well.